All right, hi there. This is a short little lesson covering the content that we did today in class, talking about symmetry and our first lesson on fractions. For a couple of students who missed out on today's lesson, sorry I forgot to record it. So today we talked about what it means, what this word here means, symmetry, or for something to be symmetrical. And as we looked at it, symmetry means when we have two things that are the mirror image of each other. If it's something that is split, we look at the two halves being the same as one another. So for example, here we have this shape, a square, and if we draw this line down the middle of the square and we divide it into two halves, into two sides, these two sides of the square, the two halves of the square, are both triangular and they are symmetrical, meaning that they are the exact same shape and the exact same size. Now if we take a look at the bottom, we look at this trapezoid we have at the bottom. If we were to split this here, these two pieces are not symmetrical because they are different shapes. So we have a triangle here, we have a parallelogram on that side, and they are definitely not the same size. This is much larger than this side. Okay. We also talked about symmetry in the world in nature. So if we look at people's faces, for example, if we drew a line down the middle, somebody said if we cut them in half, hopefully we don't talk about cutting people in half, but if we drew a line down the middle of our face, usually the left side and the right side are symmetrical. They are mirror images of each other. Now there might be certain features that are slightly different. I might have more gray hair on this side of my beard than I do on that side. I might have a freckle on this side and not on that side. But ideally we're trying to look at things that are balanced both sides the same, as if you were looking half in a mirror. Now the next part, we also looked at some examples in your book, and some of the work today does get you to go through and look at some examples of symmetry. So in the pages that were sent today, go through here, complete these pages 134, 135, and I believe there was also page maybe 136, I think, as well. Okay, and there was also page 138. Practicing drawing the mirror image, completing the second half, following the dotted line as if this was a mirror here, how the other half would look, okay, to make symmetrical images. From that, we went on and we covered, okay, so if we have two pieces of something that are the same, okay, so same. Another word we use in math when we talk about things being the same, we talk about things being equal. Okay? When we're talking about fractions, we're talking about having things in equal shares. So if we were to have a cake, if this was a cake or maybe a sandwich, we often have sandwiches that are nice square shapes, and there's a number of ways we could cut this in half. One way is to cut it into two triangles. So if we take this square, take this square here, so if it's one whole square, right, this would be one whole. Now if we cut it in half, if we divide it into two parts, there are two equal shares. This share and as well, this share, we have two shares. Two pieces that are equal size and equal shape. We can always check to see if they're equal by placing one on top of the other, and as you can see here, yes, they are equal to each other. And when we do this, this is a whole, and this piece now becomes a half. Okay? So we looked at dividing things into different shapes and into different amounts, different quantities, different fractions, right? So we're talking about a whole and a half. Next, I'm going to change our camera view here. All right, next, we're going to take a look down here. So Turn this way. There we are. Okay, so here we have a 6-sided shape that you'll recognize as a hexagon. And then we looked at, okay, well, how could we divide a hexagon in half? So we also, in the lesson materials today, you had a selection of other shapes to go with it. And we looked at saying, okay, well, what could I do with this hexagon to divide this into 2 equal parts? Which of the shapes do I have lying around here that I could cover this up with to show that it's half? We looked at different ways of doing it. Well, the squares won't fit. We said, okay, we could do some of these parallelograms or rhombuses and put them on. Oh, we could divide it, but that is not in half. We've got that in 3 pieces, so that's not what we want. Oh wait, I've got this nice trapezoid here, and I've got this nice trapezoid there. If I put them together, 2 of them, we have 2 pieces, 2 equal shares. This share and this share cover it up nicely. So this creates a half. So we have a half and a half. We also looked at, well, what if we did take this shape and we decided that, well, we didn't want to split it up into half and half. We wanted to split it amongst 3 people. In that case, like we just saw a moment ago, we could take a shape such as the rhombus and cover it up into 3 pieces. Okay? And we looked into the terminology for that. And if we divide something into 3 equal shares, okay, so if we go into 3 equal, and this is an important word here, equal shares, because we could divide this thing up in other ways that are not equal. Okay, 3 equal shares. For example, I think somebody had said we could take the trapezoid and we could take a rhombus and we could take a triangle and we could divide this up into 3 pieces, but they would not be equal. If this was the cake and we cut this up for your family, your dad would probably want the biggest one. Yeah, I know I would. Okay, so that would not be dividing it up into equal shares. So we put it into 3 equal shares, and the way we call 3 equal shares when we're talking about fractions is we call these thirds. Just like when we're doing a race or something and we have the ordinal numbers, first, second, third, when we split something into 3 pieces, we call them thirds. So right now on here, there are 3 pieces, so we call this 3 thirds, or we call 3 thirds a whole. Okay, it makes the whole shape. Now, if I take one piece away, this piece becomes 1/3. I've taken away 1/3, and up here I have left 2/3 because there's 2 of the 3 pieces still there. Okay, so this is how we name the fractions. Now, if it's half, it's 1 of 2 pieces. If it's 3 or a third, it's 1 of 3 pieces, or 2/3, 2 of 3, or 3/3, 3 of 3 pieces. The next example we talked about is if we have 4 of something. So let's get something that we have 4 of. If you look through your shapes, what can you combine to make a shape that you have 4 of, to make one shape? That make a nice shape. So I will say, okay, I'm going to take these 4 orange squares like so, and now I have one big square. Now this one big square can be divided into the 4 smaller squares. Okay, so the last one we looked at, if we could divide something into 3s, it was called thirds. And continuing that pattern, If I have first, second, third, then if I have 4, then this is called fourths. Okay, so we're dividing this one into fourths. Okay, and right now, all together, there are 4 fourths. If I take one away, well, this one piece I've taken away is 1/4. Okay, leaving me up here, leaving me with 3/4. Now, one thing that was pointed out is another way that we can actually call fourths in English is we can call these quarters. Okay, so another, it means the same thing. 1/4 can also be called 1/4. 2/4 could also be called 2 quarters. Okay, because quarters, when we divided something into a fourth, 25 out of 100 is 1/4. If we're talking about American or Canadian money in dollars, a 25-cent coin is a quarter because it is 1/4 or 1/4 of 100. Okay, so that was the main lesson today, learning about equal shares and how we name them as halves, as thirds, as fourths, and so on. And we will continue with this lesson tomorrow. For the work today, we're going to finish up all of the documents in the lesson 1 sheets that were sent together with the lesson. So please finish those up. There is a place on Seesaw where you, yes, so there's a place on Seesaw where you can upload them. So when you finish them, you can upload your finished pages. I specifically asked for 3 of them, the lesson 7 handouts and the one final sheet from the math notebook. I think it was page 138, but you can see that clearly in the Seesaw. You also have the other option on Seesaw. If you want to do it directly in there, you can directly edit those sheets online, or you can print them out and do it by hand and then upload them. So that's today's lesson. Thanks for joining. See you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye-bye.